Facebook and going live on YouTube. All right, there we go. Welcome, everybody. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Today is the 17th of May, and we're going to be recording the Polite Society podcast here in just a second. It's going to be out of order from what you're used to. Just this. Normally, you just start with a personal news segment. This week, we're going to be going to our interviewee right off the bat. And I know there's an echo of me. It sounds like I'm talking in a barrel. I'm sorry. We've got some technical issues. I'm hoping to have that all corrected here next week. So let me go ahead and reach over. We're going to get the show kicked. And here we go.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
And welcome back. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Recording this one on Monday, May the 17th, 2021. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Robin Sandoval, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Dianna Muller about her upcoming testimony in front of the House Homeland Security Committee.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about ATF using the NICS database for pre-crime.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about Pennsylvania becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary state. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 584 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. And we are back. I need to reach over here and hit that button so we have everybody on. As I said, this is for podcast listeners. We're going in a little bit of a different order. Normally we start with personal news and then we do the interview segment. Today, because our guest Dianna has some commitments here in a little bit, we're going to go ahead and do the interview segment first, and then we'll get off into the news segments. Everybody, Dianna Muller is with us. She is the founder of the DC Project. You hear a lot about the DC Project here on PSP. Dianna, thanks for joining us today.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and thanks for accommodating me.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I want to very first start off with one thing I'm pleased as punch is I know the newest state representative of the DC Project. Susan Lathrop, my wife, has just been. She just
recruited.
Yeah, she's been recruited.
We've been trying to get her for a while, actually.
So yeah, she just came on board. She said yes this weekend. So looks like
fantastic.
A lot more traveling.
Is she there with you?
Yeah, she's just sneaking in the office here. She's trying to tell me that I'm
Susan.
Very soft and I've got a big echo. And I'm sorry, sweetheart. That's the microphone's damaged. Okay. So, and Dianna, I want to start off with real quick. You testified in Congress, about a year and a half ago? You testified in front of Congress. And you're coming back here in about a week, is that right? And you're going to be testifying in front of the House again?
Well, it's actually, my written testimony is due tomorrow. and then I'll fly on Wednesday, and then I'll testify Thursday morning, and then I'll fly back home Thursday evening, and home being to St. Louis so I can drive to the match. We're having a DC Project Foundation match. Oh, there's my dog. And so I'm coming from the match, and I'm going back to the match to do my testimony. And yeah, I testified in September, I think it was, of 2019. But the difference is that I had about a month to prepare for the last one. And this one, I found out, I don't even know what today is, but I feel like I've been writing a thesis in like 3 days. And it's been, my head is going to explode, and I just pray that I get all of the information out. And one of the differences is that when I testified before, it was specifically on an assault weapons ban. And this one is a very broad, I think the title of it is Unending Epidemic, Steps to Take to Counter Mass Shootings, or something like that. So there's a huge, just broad stroke of topics there. So in my written testimony, I wanted to include everything that I know has failed in gun control. And that's really where I'm going, is pointing out that these things have been tried and these things have been proven a failure time and time again. So that's what my opening is going to focus on, is proving that they are a failure, pointing out how all of these, whether it be universal background checks or red flag laws, which, did you see what happened today? Big red flag defeating, and the SCOTUS gave us a good indication there. So that's the difference. It's just a little bit broader scope, and it's a little bit more difficult to prepare. But even when I sit here, when I was watching myself testify last time, I was like, oh, you're leaning forward and you're too comfortable. You're too trying to prepare by sitting up, and all these little things that I need to practice doing.
I'm hoping I got my microphone fixed. I'm still getting
it's a little better
of me. Give me a second here.
You're louder, but you are echoey still.
Okay. There we go. That might help. Dianna, it sounds like, just from the title of what they want you to testify about, sounds like the cards are kind of stacked against you to start with. And this is Sheila Jackson. I don't know if she's the chair of this committee, but she sits on this committee, right?
She's the chair of it, and the title is An Unending Crisis: Essential Steps to Reducing Gun Violence and Mass Shootings.
Having people shoot back, that might help.
I know. So I really do go into that. And you know how they always call for common sense. I really go through common sense. To me is cities like St. Louis and Washington D.C. adopt laws of cities that aren't plagued with violence. That's common sense. Common sense is when you make more rules, more laws. I'm kind of looking over my notes right now, so I can tell you exactly what I'm going to say. Well, I can't, because I'm going to massage it for the next several days. But, I'm going to talk about how these laws, making more laws, making registrations, making more fees, that it makes protecting yourself a rich man's game. And these laws disproportionately affect lower income and minority communities. How does that sound?
Good stuff.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it does too. Of course, somebody might get offended by rich man.
Oh, yeah. A rich woman or a rich they.
Person.
Hey, I do say something about intersectionality. Let me look about that. I start talking about how diverse our group is. And I say something like, mothers, daughters, young and old, black and white, Latina, Asian, hunters and competitors, transgender and straight, #MeToo, #NotMe, the political left and right. And I said the Second Amendment wins on the intersectionality scale. How does that sound?
Nice. That's a new concept for them.
Yeah. It is. I I do think it's a little too big, and it's not very quotable, and we can't put it on a T-shirt.
Intersectionality winner.
So there's got to be some sort of phrase like, I will not comply, that people can start putting on stickers or T-shirts.
Well, I'm sure Robin will massage that, and it'll come out sounding great.
I do need to take a stab at it, huh? So when you submit your written testimony, Di, are you able to, because you're going to take snippets of that, right, for your in-person statements that you're going to make. So how much of that do you save to say in person, and do you just submit to be on the record?
Okay, so what happens is that your written testimony can be as long as you want. Right now, I'm about 5,000 words, which is about 12 pages. Now, your written testimony or your oral testimony can only last for 5 minutes. So that's anywhere between 700 to 900 words. So you really have to pare that down. I can't speak all that I want to speak. I'm just going to have to cherry pick some things, put them all together, and then use my written testimony also as kind of prep for any kind of questions that I might get. So, yeah, there's definitely a gamesmanship to this. I've learned a lot over the past. When I testified, I actually accompanied Chris Chang when he testified in March. And then Nikki Gozier, one of our other girls, testified last month. And then Ashley Lebinsky testified last week. So we've really been diving into all this testifying and things like that. And we're very honored that they want to hear from us. And I think it's really a good deal. I think it's effective to let females take the message back to them. But one of the things that we're identifying is that there is a need for us to learn how to do this. So the DC Project will at some point put together a pager or some sort of class that or be available for a consult if you need to know how to testify and get prepared for what it feels like and looks like going into there.
And one thing that is fantastic about the DC Project is in and of itself it breaks stereotypes. The stereotypical gun owner is like me and John, old white guys. Well, I'm more stereotypical than John because I'm bald, so old bald white guys. And DC.
Yeah, there's a lot of hair here around you guys.
Exactly. And the DC Project, there's not an old bald white guy that's a part of that.
Right.
It's kind of by design.
You know what? Yeah, it is kind of by design. And honestly, when we first started this, we really just wanted to meet our legislators and be an influence in our family, our friends, our community. But it's really, we have positioned, genuinely, we're positioned to be a counter visual and a counter voice to Moms Demand Action. They are very visible in their red shirts that say Moms Demand Action, and we have implemented our Teal for 2A campaign so that we can be a visual for press conferences or when we go to hearings or rallies and things like that, so you can kind of see the numbers. And that's one of the things that we want to share in the Second Amendment community is when we go to hearings, just adopt that Teal for 2A color. I don't care what organization you're from, but take the teal color, especially the women. It's a lot easier for women to do it, but yeah, to look like we are coordinated and that we have the numbers that we really do.
Speaking of making a visual, do you have people going to sit behind you and nod in agreement and be your support in the stands?
I have Gabby Franco is going to go with me right now. They're still very COVID-ish and they're only allowing one, maybe two. I snuck two in when Chris Chang testified. I got to sit with Chris, and then Maj Toure also got to sit with Chris. And then ever since then, they've only been allowing one in. So I'll take Gabby with me, and if they'll let me take two, I'm going to take Jane Horton, who is my inspiration for even starting the DC Project.
Good. I love having those powerful women behind you. Will be a good photo confidence too.
Yeah.
right.
One of the things I've always objected to was the term gun violence. And I remember correcting a reporter from Huffington Post about it. And she said, well, what would you call it? And after I polled a lot of my friends, I came up criminal misuse of a firearm.
I might use that.
We're getting some social media comments I want to get to. Diane says, you're doing a great job, Dianna, for the DC project. I think we need more females testifying. It shows that females can possibly change some minds in Congress.
Well, one of the things, I don't want to just bash them and say no to their ideas. I really do want to talk about solutions. So some of my solutions are talking about Kids Safe Foundation and the Faster Saves Lives, the Train a Teacher Day. I really want to talk about studies. We need to study the violence that goes between, gaming and desensitizing these kids and rewarding them for, evil behavior. So there's a lot of things like that I do have in my opening that I want to make sure that I get out there and talk about the solutions that we have, because we know that education is the key to safety. It is not legislation. You can't legislate somebody from drowning, and you can't legislate somebody from running across the firearm. If they don't know how to swim, it's a dangerous situation.
Absolutely. I promised you I'd keep you short tonight, simply because I know you've got other plans. What else is going? You've got the match coming up later in the month. Anything else going on with DC Project we need to know about?
Later in the week. So the match starts on Friday. Friday night we have a banquet. Right this year it's in the middle of Missouri, right outside of Osage Beach, Missouri. We have a banquet and a fundraiser. So yeah, there are some. Robin, is there any of our live auction items or silent auction items on our website yet?
No, they're not on the website yet, but I will get them online.
Well, maybe check back, and if anybody's interested in some good firearms, some gee whiz, I can't remember. I know we've got a Benelli. I know we've got a bunch of Sig Sauer stuff. So yeah, just let us know, hit us up, and we can get you hooked up with somebody that can bid for you or whatever like that. So that's coming up. We just had an amazing event. It was Saturday, right? It was this past weekend in New Jersey. I want to thank the CNJFO. They kind of co-hosted with the lady out there, and it looked like a wedding. It was so amazing. All this stuff. Charlie was there. He can talk about it.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the place looked amazing. It was a lot of fun.
Looked like Charlie got a lot of drinking done that night.
Well, I did tell Charlie I had FOMO watching everybody. Oh, look, he just deflects that, doesn't he?
Water. I'm having water.
Oh, I know. I was like, I just was dying not being there. And then there is a video up on our YouTube channel, I know, and I'll probably try to post that to social media, but we had speakers, and so there's a video, about 45-minute video of the presentation, and they did so good. I'm so proud of them.
All right, well, Dianna, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Right, folks,
good luck.
Appreciate what you do.
You bet. We're gonna
see you in a few days.
Folks. We're going to hear from ACLDN. When we come back, you'll hear what sounds a lot more like a normal show. Hang on, everybody. Right back, right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership. and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Kappelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right. Right off, I want to go to a social media comment we got, and I need to change so Diana's picture is no longer in the screen. Kevin says, it's so freaking good to see you, Paul, and all the other good friends. Even Charlie, I guess. Dude, you are...
I am the whipping boy. Sure, whipping boy Charlie.
All right, so let's go ahead. We'll do the personal news segment and just go around and say what's been going on with us. Normally, I throw it to Rob first during that, but he's having some issues. Apparently, his house got flooded. So,
oh no.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm going to go with John instead first. Then, John, what's been up with you since the last time we were on the air? And we missed a week, so.
Yeah. Well, I was on Save the Seconds podcast this past week. We talked about the Nra bankruptcy, did a little bit of analysis of it. I also worked the Grassroots North Carolina gun show booth in Asheville the prior weekend, and we did really well. The gun show was kind of interesting in that it was very crowded on Saturday, less so on Sunday, but you could not find any gunpowder anywhere in the place. Very few bullets, very little reloading stuff in general. I did notice a lot of polymer 80 kits for sale, and I think they sold very well because it came right after ATF said they were going to change the definition of what is a firearm. And I will neither confirm nor deny that I may or may not have purchased one of those kits. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Wow. Okay.
And that's what cash is for.
Absolutely. Charlie, looks like you're up next, man. Other than drinking from the fountain.
That was just for a picture. Just for a picture.
Okay.
And it was only Kool-Aid, right?
It was, yes, it was. I've been super busy. I had a great weekend. I went down to Pennsylvania with John Petrolino and Holly Sullivan, and we went and did some sporting clays on Friday, and that parlayed into the CNJFO event with the DC Project Gals. During the day, I actually got to interview Dan Schmutter in northern part of New Jersey, and I interviewed Gabby Franco before the event in the afternoon. The afternoon was amazing. It was great. All of our CNJFO friends were there. Rosie and Dan Gerdovich and Tony Simon was there, and obviously John Petrolino was there. And we had an amazing time. And then John and I got up the next day, and we drove to Waterbury, Connecticut for the CCDL, the Connecticut Citizens Defense League pig roast. And we got to hang out with Holly again, and had a great time. And I came home, and I crashed last night.
And it wasn't from the hangover.
Oh, my God. I'm still drinking water.
All right. Robin, since the last time you've been on the air, you did a huge national conference.
Yeah, I feel like it was just yesterday, even though it's been over a week now, but we had our 9th annual national conference presented by Glock. We had 450 participants, about 65 instructors, 30 staff members, about 50 vendors. So there were over 600 people on site that week, and it was really, really successful. We had a really, really great time in Colorado. So that was always a lot of fun to see our girls shooting and training and learning all platforms, pistol, rifle, shotgun, defensive, competitive, you name it, we're doing it. So that was always a lot of fun. And then I've been kind of recovering, trying to get things back in order from that big event. So this weekend, while Charlie was out partying, I was unloading our trailers and lugging inventory and t-shirts back around, trying to get things back on track. So, but I've been doing little things. I got my 3-gun belt situated, moved all my ELS, hardware around, so I'm ready for the DC Project match this weekend. And I just got a new Pelican case so I can fly out there, and all the little things. It's the little things that make it exciting.
All right. That kind of leaves me, and we got a comment up. Larry says, "Look what the government is doing now. Can you imagine if they took our guns?" That's what we're fighting against, man. That's what we're fighting against. Anyway, for me, there wasn't a show last week. The reason there wasn't a show is because I was in the hospital. I was recovering from surgery, and I've got more surgery next week. So there'll be a show tonight, and then again, not one for 2 weeks. I hope to continue the Daily Bullet series starting tomorrow, but until the doctor clears me full speed to go back to work, things are going to be hit and miss for a little bit. It turns out that about 3 weeks ago, I had a stroke, and then they found they were going through testing, they found some cardiac issues. I had to go in. I had a blockage in one of the arteries in my heart. They went in and put a stent in, and then I go to see a neurologist Thursday, and then Monday I go in. They're going to be clearing out the arteries in my neck. Apparently I have a 70% blockage in one of them. So that's why you didn't hear from me, and we will be going back to a regular broadcast schedule, I'm hoping very soon. So,
well, Paul, just know that you're in all of our thoughts as you battle this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have to take care of yourself. I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do, but you have to take care of yourself.
It's implied, right? It's implied.
Whatever it means to take care of yourself is what you need to do. You know how to take care of yourself best.
Susan from the other room yells, "That's my job." Stephen Legacy on Facebook says, "Robin, what's up with the map behind you? Michigan don't look right."
Yeah, so funny story. I actually have a big Wonder Woman mural behind me, but I wanted to have a map, and I was going to put all of our Girl in a Gun chapters, little pins in there, because we have over 250 host ranges now, so I was going to map us out. So I went online, and I really love this map, and I bought it, and it came from the Ukraine, and it took 4 months to get it. So this is a Ukrainian interpretation of a map of the United States. So there are a couple things. Louisville is spelled wrong, and a couple lakes are in the wrong place. But other than that, it's really pretty.
Wow.
That's awesome. So I'll tell you this, Robin. I bought a map from Michaels, and it's a galvanized steel map of the United States. And the states are just a hair funky, but I have it on my wall, and whenever I do an interview someplace, I put a little black dot on that area or in that city. So it's the same kind of thing. I love it.
Yeah, nice.
All right, and I want to get one more comment up here, because if I don't, she will beat me. And my beautiful bride Susan says, "Robin, please email me info about starting a Girl in a Gun chapter." So
I am happy to do it. We will talk in person when I'm there in a couple weeks.
Very cool. Very cool. Like, she doesn't have enough going on. She's got this old bald trucker with failing health she's taking care of. She just stepped into a leadership role in the DC Project, and now she wants to do this too. So,
well, DC Project and a Girl in a Gun can go hand in hand. So I'll walk you through it, Susan. I'm happy to have you on board.
all right.
I think what she's trying to say is, now that you're home, Paul, she wants out of the house.
You know what? That could very well be. That absolutely. And everybody, we're getting so many comments. Warsaw Patriot, where was let me get a couple of these up here. There we go. The biggest importance is knowing history. If not knowing history, then you've already got yourself duped in a trap.
And that's really true. I was actually meeting with, this morning I had a conference with Joe Jaworski, who's running for the Attorney General of Texas, and he's beginning his campaign tour. And he's on the Democratic ticket, and he wanted to talk to me about what guns meant to me and learn about our side and our views. And I was really happy to spend that time with him. And one of the things I told him is, universal background checks result in a registry. Every registry in the history of the world has resulted in confiscation policies. And it's really important that a lot of people who are anti-gunners or non-gunners understand the history of gun control so that they know, why we're so resistant to it and why we think it's absolutely not common sense, and how we can tell them how there are unintended consequences of, they might suggest a policy that has well intentions, but we all have seen the unintended consequences, the expenses, just all of the things that go sideways with it. So I was really glad that he was open to that, given that he's running for Attorney General, which could be, the person who defends our rights in the state of Texas.
All right. And then Warsaw Patriot also says gun control has always been the most negative parts of history. Segregation, dictatorships, and massacres, and not to mention discrimination.
Absolutely.
And in the United States, the gun control movement is started, it's rooted, and stays racist from its beginning.
Evan Knappen likes to say that legislation leads to registration, registration leads to confiscation, and confiscation leads to extermination.
Yes, that was very, very. And
we've seen it time and time again.
Somebody chiming in that also had a good time, because I saw him getting his head kissed, was John Petrolino. I would have. I was going to give Amanda a hard time about that, but she's not here, so yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Petrolino.
Anyway, so Charlie, you're at least off the hook for that little part of it. And David, speaking of this past weekend, David Rosenthal, Rosie, is checking in and says CNJFO is proud of our DCP delegate, Teresa Einiger. As you should be, man. Teresa's one of my favorite people to have on, either here or on the Daily Bullet. I love her positive energy. She not only does a great job, her energy is infectious. I love it.
And she's one of the smartest people around. She's super smart.
Absolutely. All right, let's see here. We blew that segment up. We are way long. Let's go ahead. We're going to step aside for one more break. We'll come back for news, and we'll get to that right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
All right, we are back. This is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm gonna let our listeners lead us because we've got comments that go directly into news. Stephen Legacy says, massive win for gun owners. Supreme Court rules warrantless home gun confiscation is unconstitutional in 9-0 vote. That was a big win. And it was a win not just for gun owners. It was a win for the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
I read part of the decision today, and basically the majority opinion, well, the majority being a 9-0 opinion, was written by Judge Clarence Thomas, and he said, there's a big difference between trying to secure stuff in a car versus a house. A house is a man's castle, and the rules that apply to that are much stronger than your average car. And the other concurrent opinions were all along that same line.
The thing with the Fourth Amendment is, and keeping guns, I'm going to use air quotes, stored so that people don't have access to them, is the government is not going to know how people are storing their firearms unless they get into your house. And once they get in your house, they can say you can only have big, heavy safes that take men to move in and men to move them out, and they weigh 600 pounds and they cost $3,000, and these are the only acceptable safes. And if you don't keep it that way, then you can't have a gun.
Law enforcement the security code for that safe.
The key, right. You got to give them the keypad or the combination or the key so they have access to it as well, which defeats the purpose of having the Fourth Amendment and the illegal search and seizure.
I think we can all agree, though, that the concern about red flags has always been the lack of due process, and so this kind of reiterates our hope that we will always preserve our right to due process regardless of the red flag laws.
And then you look at the countries that don't have a Fourth Amendment, the UK, Australia, where they have mandatory safe storage laws, where the police can come in, they have to approve your safe storage, the $3,000 safe that Charlie referred to. And I think at least in Australia, they have to have the code or the key to get into it. And I'm not saying that they're crooked cops, but if you have some real high-dollar collectibles, they could disappear.
Yes, they could. Next one's for you, John. What is the status of grassroots North Carolina push to get rid of NC permits to buy under the old Jim Crow racist laws?
I can answer that. It has passed the House with a majority. It has now gone to the state Senate. It went to the state Senate before what's called the crossover deadline. If you don't meet the crossover deadline, they can't consider it later. So we have essentially another year to fully vote on this. My fear is that even though it will probably pass the state Senate as well as having already passed the state House, they're not veto-proof majorities. It passed 68 to 47-49. There were 2 Democrats that voted for it, but there was also 1 Republican that voted against it. I'm pretty sure the governor will veto it.
Now, that's strong. Is that strong enough to override the veto? It sounds pretty stout. It's not.
No, they need about 72.
Okay. All right. Warsaw Patriot says, I got to bring something up. People think guns are dangerous. Last week, people were filling plastic garbage bags with gasoline and putting it in the back of their cars. Imagine if somebody took a smoke. Dear God, no, don't smoke. That being a recent former smoker.
Well, given that I live along the area serviced by the Colonial Pipeline, at one time earlier this week, 75% of our gas stations in Asheville were without gas and lines at the rest. And across the state, you saw a lot. You saw people trying to. They're being accused of hoarding, filling up gas cans, and yes, there were people filling up plastic bags in the back of their trunk. I mean, it's kind of, nobody ever heard of Ford Pinto, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding.
Isn't it a little bit of Darwinism there? Like,
oh yeah,
let these people do what they're gonna do. We believe in freedom, and it's not illegal to be stupid yet.
Yeah, well, no, it's and never should be. And I think this is a backhanded swipe at me, but it's funny, so we're going to put it in. People have lost their damn minds these days, and not just. Don't think Paul Lathrop. Yeah, well, it could be that I've lost my damn mind. And Dana says Home Depot buckets.
Mm-hmm. I saw people having like a plastic bag in a laundry basket and filling it full of gas.
Jeez, come on. You know, if you've got a full tank, I mean, wasn't it it was this time last year, a full tank of gas would have lasted most people 3 months. And yeah, I don't know.
It seems crazy it's crazy to use a quarter tank of gas to go find a quarter tank of gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I'm the only one here that's old enough to remember actually being in one of those lines in 1973 and 74. Yeah.
I remember seeing pictures, yeah.
Yeah, it was even odd gas. I mean, based on your license plate, you were limited to 10 gallons.
Yeah.
But gas was 48 cents a gallon then.
Mike Garrett says that's illegal as hell. Well, yeah, you're supposed to only put gasoline into approved containers. But guys, seriously, I am all for freedom. I don't think it should be illegal to put gasoline into a plastic bag, shove that thing into your trunk, simply because of survival of the fittest. And if you don't pay attention and aren't thinking, look, this could go bad, then you kind of deserve what you get. People call me an idiot, and I there are reasons to do that. I smoked for 35 years up until a week ago this past Saturday, and I can honestly now I can say that I am a former smoker. Having a stroke will do that to you. The doctor telling you if you don't quit, you're not going to be here long will do that for you. But I've done not smart things in my life. I've never put gasoline into a plastic bag, but I also believe you got the right, if you want to stick your arm or any other tender appendage into a running blender if you so choose. So
I just think the videos are funny that were online, and I wanted to see how some of them played out. So how do you, once you get the bag home, do you siphon it? I wanted to know the plan here. I just wanted to know more. Are we just storing it?
And gasoline is only good for a limited time. After about 6 to 9 months, if you haven't burned it, it's not going to burn so great. So I don't know.
I don't think burning is the optimum word, but I don't know if it would last that long in a plastic bag.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Michael Schmidt seems to be right around your age, John, because he says, I worked at a service station at that time. And Mike Garrett says panic buying led to a lack of supply. And you know how I know that's true? Because the shortage wasn't just along that pipeline. There were places in Oklahoma that were running across shortages. And that pipeline doesn't get anywhere near Oklahoma. So
yeah, people here in Texas were lined up too. It's silly how people panicked.
Yeah. Oh, Warsaw Patriot. That's a good point, man. He says it's like brake cleaner. It will eat up any plastic. That's what most gas cans are made out of. It's HDPE plastic, but it's not like the garbage bag plastic. But yeah, I could see gasoline eating up a regular garbage bag.
I think we learned that in one of the early episodes of Breaking Bad, right?
I've never seen it, ever.
Oh, that's a good one. You need to go watch it.
Okay.
You do. You need to binge it.
Yeah, while you're recuperating.
Charlie Chambers, man. Gas at Taco Bell is $1.89.
Leave it to Charlie Chambers.
Oh, yeah. Charlie's a great brand, right?
Yes, he is.
All right. Wow. All right. Well, is there anything else in news we need to talk about this week? Constitutional carry has not yet made it all the way through the legislature in Texas. For a hot minute, it looked like he was gonna. And
Well, due to parliamentary procedure, it was sent back to the House, and a lot of people are saying that it's the parliamentary procedure that was going to allow deniability, so no one can say that it was your fault. It was just part of the process, but everyone's looking at Dan Patrick. Everybody knows it was him who could have brought it to the floor and didn't.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have it in here anymore, but I used to have a graphic in here that gave out his phone number to his office. And I would still recommend people give him a call. If you're interested in constitutional carry in Texas, give his office a call. Remind him that he doesn't run with the governor. He runs for his office on his own. And if he wants to retain that office, he needs to get constitutional carry pushed through.
There's also several Second Amendment sanctuary bills in different states, too. I know in Texas they've been trying to get it passed, and it's going back and forth among the committees also.
Okay. I think we had a write-up on that. Where was it?
Yeah, it's right at the top. It's the Second Amendment sanctuary state legislation has been filed in Pennsylvania this week. Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, and Wyoming were such prior to Biden's election. Arkansas, Arizona, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and West Virginia had declared themselves the same so far this year.
You know, and state level is where that really makes a difference. There's a ton of cities and counties that have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. The state, when the state says you're not going to use any state money for state personnel, that's where it makes a huge difference. Let's see here. Lost where I was.
Well, based on the district
they
court...
cannot be.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say I was just going to say you cannot force a state to use state money to enforce a federal law.
And then plus the district court ruling in Colorado last month that said that a city cannot enact more rigid regulation than what the state allows. So, in other words, in Colorado, Boulder and Denver, which have more restrictive gun laws, they are going to be unable to enforce them because they're more restrictive than what the state has on the books.
All right, one more here. Jack Martin says, you need to live in West Florida. We get our gas from the Gulf. I haven't had to wait in any lines to get gas.
What are the prices?
No idea. Not Taco Bell prices, I'll tell you that.
Indeed.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Colonial Pipeline was Gulf gas. It was sending it from Houston all the way up to New York.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do this because we're right up on the edge of the segment here. We've got a DGU segment we need to get to. We will get to that. I'm gonna have you folks hang on. We're gonna hear from JPFO. We'll be right back right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
All right, welcome back. This is the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of the sponsors or other affiliations, although they should be. Greenville, South Carolina. Who wants to take that one?
I'll do it.
Okay, Robin, you're up.
An upstate woman was being choked and hit by a man with whom she was in a domestic relationship. At the time of the attack, she was holding a 9-month-old baby. During the attack, another man stepped in to try to help the woman, and the attacker turned his attention to him. During this time, she was able to find a gun in a piece of the attacker's clothing and armed herself with it. When the attacker came back at her, she fired at him. The attacker was shot at least once and was taken to the hospital in stable but critical condition. Investigators believe the shooting to be self-defense. The attacker is charged with first-degree domestic violence, unlawful neglect of a child, third-degree assault and battery, and felon in possession. No toxicology results were released.
A defensive gun use is really a whole lot easier if you have your own gun. That's, I guess, is where I want to go with that one. You know, I'm glad she was able to get a hold of the bad guy's gun and use it, but it's a lot easier to use a gun in self-defense if it's on your body, not the attacker's body.
I'm really impressed that she was able to keep her wits holding the baby and getting choked and being able to find a firearm on him that was not secured to him. That's pretty impressive that she was able to do all of those things.
This could be a really advanced thing for a girl and a gun. Hold the baby, grab the guy's gun, and then shoot him.
You got to do whatever it takes. That's that winning mindset. It doesn't sound like he did. It sounded like she had access to it, but that's that winning mindset that we have to do what we have to do.
Absolutely.
I've heard of IDPA stages where they had to complete the stage while holding a small doll. Saying it's a child. You cannot drop the child. You've got to keep holding and control the child while you do this stage. I've never participated in it, but I've heard of stages like that.
There's a lot of stages holding a stuffed animal or a backpack. There's a lot of defensive classes, self-defense. What is it? I just went blank on their title, but John Johnson and Melody Lauer specialized in the Armed Guardian. The same kind of thing where you're manipulating a loved one or a baby while also being in a defensive situation. There's a lot of really great training courses on that.
Yeah, one thing about this DGU that makes me think, going back to Diana's testimony, what you saw there, he was a felon in possession. It doesn't seem like the police or ATF or the feds or whomever, if you have a felon in possession, doesn't that just make a mockery of all gun control laws?
It's a really good point, John.
Absolutely. If he's a felon, he can't legally possess one, or he can't buy one from a gun store, so he had to buy it through other means.
Or acquire it through other means.
David Rosenthal says, I've done the IDPA stage that Paul references. We call it Save the Baby. You've got to shoot the target at least 3 times while backing up. And then Dana, our writer, commented, inside the diaper holster? So. All right, John, I think you got the next one in the show notes, man.
Yeah, it's from Walled Lake, Michigan. Just after midnight, recently in the outer suburb area of Detroit, 3 suspects decided they were going to attack. The husband and father of the family of 4 had just left. He received a call from his wife telling him that someone was trying to break in. One of the sons picked up the phone to call 911 as he had seen in the video. The father remains on the phone with his wife while he rushes back home. He can overhear someone saying, "We're going to kill you," N-word. At this point, he tells his wife to get the gun. Moments later, the gun goes off, and you see the boys on the video run for cover. Police arrived in time to arrest the 3 suspects, 2 men and a woman. No word if they will be charged with a hate crime or any other charges. Me not being there, it was scary, the father told reporters. He is candid with his sons about the incident. They know we don't live in a perfect world.
Wow. Not a ton to go on there. We don't know. Apparently, there's video of it. But we don't. I don't have a whole lot to go on just from the write-up on that one.
That has to be terrifying to hear your family in distress and not be there, and just hope that they know how to access the firearm, how to defend themselves until you can get there, or until the police can get there. That's why it's so important that everyone has a family emergency plan.
Absolutely. It's also important to let people know that when you do have to call 911, you need to talk as calm as you can and give them the information and say your name, say the address, say it twice so that they know where to get to and where to go to.
And then when they say
and don't hang up.
Don't hang up,
yeah.
But don't keep the phone to your ear. Just set the damn thing down, maybe put it on speakerphone.
Yeah.
You got it. Your attention needs to be as to what's happening around you. That operator's not going to climb through the phone and come into your living room and help you out. And so when they say stay on the line, put the thing on speakerphone, set it down, and take care of around you what you got to take care of.
But in this story, he told his wife to get the gun, and hopefully she had enough training to know how to operate it and how to be confident and proficient with it. And I think that's a lot of women that I meet. They come to a girl in the gun because they realize that they're on their own and they're the ones being their own first responder. Up until that point, they probably relied on their husband or significant other for their own personal protection. And it comes with that realization of knowing that if this moment goes sideways, that you can protect yourself and your children.
It's also good to see that one of the things I often tell people is that bad guys have friends. So I live in occupied territory. When people say, well, what do you need a high capacity magazine for? I say bad guys have friends. So 3 people broke into the house. You've got a Joe Biden special double-barreled shotgun that you should fire into the air. It's not really going to help.
Not even close. Well, and I want to dovetail off that. Knowing as much as I do about shooting and knowing how difficult under stress it is to hit every shot exactly where you aim it, 3 people are coming in. Are you sure that 6-shot revolver is going to, that one shot is going to stop every time you pull that trigger? If it takes 2 shots all of a sudden, per perpetrator, all of a sudden you're out of ammo. Do you have enough?
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I mean, you look at cases with trained professionals, supposedly, like New York City Police. I can't think of the guy's name, Diallo, where they shot him and they shot 44, 45 times and hit him, 3 times?
I'm not sure that was the exact numbers, but it was close. It was really close. There's actually a series on Netflix called Death by Media, and one of the episodes is Amadou Diallo. Another thing that it's good to see from this, I guess, is that when shots are fired, the bad guys turn and run, but you can't always bank on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good point. And this one, it didn't address the toxicology report, but had there been someone under the influence, they might not have stopped. They might not have run. You never know.
This is true.
Now, let me preface, I'm going to bring a comment up. Let me preface this by saying none of us here are lawyers. So, but Warsaw Patriot asks, is it illegal to stop and prevent a massacre from happening, especially if you have a concealed carry, a CCW? I know some state law enforcement will arrest you for involving yourself to stop a shooter from committing harm. Yeah, Warsaw Patriot, you got to be talking about New Jersey. Most of free America
you're okay.
If the danger is imminent.
Yeah.
If there's imminent danger, that's the qualifier.
You've got to be able to articulate. You got to be able to state why you are intervening when the police start talking to you.
I always tell people the reason that I carry knives and guns is to protect me and my kids, and that is as far as my circle needs to go. If someone's robbing a bank, it's a scary situation. I'm not afraid of my life. However, if they start randomly going around killing people, then I could be in fear for my life, and then I think it might be a little more easy to justify.
Mm-hmm. That's why scenario training is so valuable, because you never know how you're going to act in that situation, and it's really good to get the training before you're in the situation for real. So to know how to find your closest exit, to know how to leave, to know how to maneuver your children out of a dangerous situation, or to seek cover, exploring all your options when your mind is racing is a really important scenario tactic.
It is, and this is why it's great to put a plug in for self-defense gun stories, because this is the stuff that they cover every week.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Warsaw Patriot also said, speaking of stopping perpetrators, in Chicago, a cop had to shoot a thug who was charging him with a steel pipe and told him to stop. He refused. He had to shoot him 5 to 6 times in order to stop him. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
This is the case for high cap magazines.
And he also says anyone
standard cap magazine
will not feel pain and keep attacking. Yep.
I love you, Robin.
The rest of us in Free America, they're standard, Charlie.
I know. I have to get over that.
All right, let's go ahead and do this. We've got one more segment we've got to get to. And so we're going to go ahead and step aside for our final break. We're going to hear from, goodness, where am I at here? I think we're going to hear
it's John's turn.
It's whose turn?
Oh, John, he's doing his blog, but we have to go to break, right? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking to see where I'm at in the lineup for what ads I've run so far. We're going to hear from the Complete Combatant. When we come back, we'll talk about what everybody's been up to writing and other things, and we'll wrap the show up. Hang on, everybody.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
All right, and I want to thank the Complete Combatant. They've been a sponsor of the show for a couple of years, and this was the last week they're under contract. We've been doing some work, and I want to thank the Complete Combatant for being such a great sponsor for the last couple of years. Let's go ahead and we'll get into starting to wrap the show up. Normally I throw to Rob and say, what's he been writing about, but he's not around right now, so I am going to go ahead and encourage you to go read his blog, slowfacts.wordpress.com. John, what's been going on over at Only Guns and Money?
Well, H398, that does away with the NC pistol purchase permit, which we discussed a little earlier, did pass the NC House and goes to the Senate before the crossover deadline. As you may imagine, a lot of my posts this past week dealt with the dismissal of the NRA's bankruptcy case as, quote, not being in good faith, close quote. Now, this leaves the NRA back where they started, but about $10 million lighter in attorney's fees, with the New York Attorney General having even more ammo thanks to testimony, and indeed potentially liable for the other party's legal fees. And I really did not actually expect this outcome, as I thought Judge Hale would have gone with either an examiner or a trustee. However, it was Wayne LaPierre's own testimony that was the primary reason that they filed, was to gain a litigation advantage over New York that forced the judge to dismiss the case. As one person said to me, if the NRA cannot win a case in a Texas court with a judge named Cooter, then what does this say about their attorneys and their case? That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
I'd like to encourage everybody to tune in Wednesday night. Frank Tate is going to be joining John and me 6 o'clock Central Time Wednesday night, and we're going to be going really in-depth into the NRA, what happened with the bankruptcy, and what everything looks like going forward. Charlie, what's been going on over with Riding Shotgun and with Charlie? You're well over 100 episodes now and charging along.
I am, thank you. The show that I put out this past week was Mike Pewarski from Arms Room Radio. The show that I'm putting out tomorrow is Dave Workman. It's going to be episode 105. Since the end of March, maybe early April, I've been putting out a show every week, which I thought would be a challenge. And it's not that it's not, because it is. But I've got lots of content that I want to get out as soon as possible. So I'm juggling shows and editing shows and making it happen once a week.
I'm kind of surprised you were able to get Mike Pewarski to string together 4 or 5 intelligible sentences in a row.
Well, we both probably had a couple drinks the night before, so there could have been a little bit of residual,
That seems to be a theme this week with you, Mike.
It's just water.
Robin, have you got anything you've done lately that you wanna plug?
Yeah, I just wrote an article that I found pretty fascinating. A lot of times I will find articles written online that say women's favorite holsters or women's favorite firearms, and I always find it interesting when it's written by a man. So this last week at our national conference, I actually logged 450 women, the pistol they brought with them, or pistols, many of them brought 2 or 3, the models and brands of those pistols, the models and brands of those holsters, their mag pouches, and their belts. So I've compiled all of those stats to see what products are actually trending among women that they're using in training and in concealed carry. So if you want to see that, you can find it at agirlandagun.org.
Very cool. I have not written anything in almost a week and a half. So I'm still having issues with my left hand doing what I want it to do when I go to the keyboard. And so I don't have anything that I've written that I get to plug. But hopefully that will be changing in the very near future. And I get back to both parts of my job. So, before we take off, I do need to find, where are we at? There we go. I do need to plug our Facebook listeners group. Just search Facebook for Polite Society Podcast listeners, and all of a sudden I'm having a very difficult time talking. And I am not as involved there as I would like to be, but there's always a vibrant conversation going on there about things around the Second Amendment. And you won't get any, for lack of a better term, Karens lecturing you. We keep a pretty tight rein on things there. So that does wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. I'd like to thank Dianna Muller for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Gary, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, we're done recording. I'm going to go ahead and shut the streams down here in just a second. Before I do, I want one more comment to come in. Stephen Legacy says, Paul, different office? Yeah. My wife and I, and that's part of the reason I had microphones issues. My wife and I swapped offices. I had an office that was just barely big enough to fit my equipment and me in at the same time. And moving around, especially after the stroke, was getting to be a bit difficult. So our kids came over, and Susan made the decision our kids were going to come over, and we were swapping offices. In the process, my microphone got damaged, and that's why early in the show I sounded echoey until I got some things straightened out. I've got another microphone on the way, should be here Wednesday. I'm hoping that all issues are settled on Wednesday. So we're going to go ahead and shut the stream down. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. And if not before, come see us Wednesday night.